Yeah.
Yes.
All right. My talk today is on Android development with JRuby/Duby. The last one being a new addition in the last 48 hours, really. So I'm going to start with a little bit of like an overview about Android development in general. What is Android OS? It's a software stack for mobile devices that includes an operating system, middleware, and key applications. What are some key features of Android? A Dalvik virtual machine optimized for mobile devices, so it doesn't run the full JVM. It runs its own specialized version of it. Integrated browser based on the WebKit. It has 3D graphics based on OpenGL. That's not for sure. It depends on the phone you have, and so as a developer, you can't always assume that's going to be there. SQLite for storing data. Media support for a whole range of different codecs. Bluetooth, Edge, 3G, and Wi-Fi. But they always say, if you have to assume one thing, assume that the connection is slow. So always develop for slow connection. Camera, GPS, compass, and accelerometer. So this might be a little small, but it's the entire Android stack. It starts with the applications up at the top. Then there's the application frameworks, like the window manager, content providers, resource manager, notification manager, then the different libraries, and then down below there's the core libraries and the virtual machine, and that sits on top of a Linux kernel. So what are some, if you were going to do some basic scripting for Android, what are some terminology that you need to know? Activities, they're the basic building block of any Android application. Whatever you see on the screen at the time is an activity. Services, those run in the background with no UI. So like when you get an instant message and it pops up a notification, it's because it's running a service in the background. Broadcast and intent receivers, that's how Android, different applications can communicate with each other. So if you register an intent of certain, they almost look like URLs. If you register an intent, another application can send data to that intent in Android. If your application has registered it, will know how to handle that data. So that would be how, like, you take a picture with the camera app and then you can share it with like a Twitter application right there. That's how they know that each other exist. And content providers are the basic superclass framework for handling and storing data. So it kind of sits underneath everything, and when you access data or over the network or whatever, you're dealing with a content provider. So here are the things I'm going to go over today in this talk. The first being Android scripting environment. Second being Ruboto. I think that's how I say it, Ruboto. Third being JRuby for Android. And lastly, which is a new development and very exciting, native application development using Duby. So, I forgot to say, there's a URL there. It's sdruby-android or -presentation.heroku.com. So if you have your laptop open and want to follow along, you can go there and follow along on the slides. It also helps because I have QR codes throughout the presentation. And if you have your phone and you want to play with this as I'm talking with it, just scan the QR code and it'll start downloading. So the first one is Android scripting environment. What is Android scripting environment? It was a project at Google to bring scripting languages to Android. You can execute scripts that run interactive interpreters directly on an Android device. Damon Kohler is the employee that is the maintainer of the application. That's his blog. So what can ASE do? It can handle intents, it can start activities, it can make phone calls, it can send text messages, it can scan barcodes, it can pull location and sensor data, use text-to-speech. How do the scripts run? You can run them as a process, interactively from a shell. So you get a shell that comes up, and that shell you can load into, say, IRB if you're running JRuby, and then you can load into application from that. Or what's really cool is you can use an application like Locale. Do any of you guys know what that is, that particular application? If you have a Android phone, you've probably run across it, or maybe you haven't, but it's a cool application. Basically, it will let you do things on your phone depending on certain location criteria, like your GPS detects you're in this area, you get within Wi-Fi range of this hotspot, stuff like that. And then you can use that to trigger different scripts that you write. So that's really powerful and really cool. What languages are supported by ASE? Python, Perl, JavaScript, Lua, Bean Shell, and Ruby through JRuby. And the last two are interesting, Bean Shell and Ruby, because those are the only two that can actually load native Android libraries. They can reflect on the Android class, and you can load up things that aren't, that some of the other languages cannot. So how are the other languages able to use features of Android if they can't look into the different Android libraries to call them? Well, it uses something called Android Facade API. How does that work? The Facade API exposes a subset of Android system APIs via JSON RPC calls. So basically, it sets up an RPC between the native language running via C or whatever on the Android device and an Android application, and it kind of passes things off between the two of them. Only the parts of the Android API which have been wrapped by Android scripting environment are available to those languages via the interpreter. So you may think, like, that's really cool, and you definitely use that from Ruby, but the whole point of JRuby was that it could reflect the Java classes so that you wouldn't need to use any of those. You can just use JRuby on Android. And that's true, but Facade brings a lot of nice things, like the ability to do this, require Android, droid equals droid.new, droid.maketoast, hello SDRuby. And that's like, maketoast is like it would be like a small notification similar to growl on OS 10. So I'm going to give a quick demo of that. All right, let me arrange this so you can see. Is the size on the terminal okay? So I'm going to apologize for the, over here is my actual, I have a G1 and it's kind of slow. But it's running over like an application that lets me view what's going on the screen. It's the easiest way to present something like this, but it runs kind of slow. So I apologize in advance. But it shows some cool things that you can do. One of which is, if you noticed here, let me exit out of here. Okay, so I just entered in, I'm in an IRB shell on my computer. I'm going to require Android, and then set droid.new. Or I'm going to set droid equal to droid.new. So you can see hello SDRuby showed up on my phone. So what I've basically done is created the RPC bridge between my computer and my phone. So I'm executing code from my computer on my phone. or I'm passing messages to my phone to execute code, which is cool because I can access all the stuff on my phone directly from my computer. So I could say, you know, A equals droid dot and so I'll get an input box over here. And I'll say hello. Send that back over. And you see the response down there I got was hello. So that's, you know, not much for a text box, but if you did you know, so that what that does is fire up the sensors on the phone, and then so what you can see right there is that that's the complete length, complete readback of the current sensors on my phone. So it'll tell the exact orientation of the phone. You can you know, switch the phone around, and you know, you'll get a different reading. That's cool because, you know, a lot of people use like Wiimotes and stuff, and they figure out ways to hack the Wiimote to use it with their Ruby scripts. Well, if you have an Android phone and using this library, you can you know, have basically the same power. I mean, this is a packed full of cool little sensors, so you can, you know, write Ruby scripts that use your phone to control different things. And basically just, you know, hijacking the sensors and stuff on the phone. I use it all the time for wake it up so you can see this. Oh yeah. If I did that, I'd have to restart the. I'll do that after I do this real quick. Basically, just showing I scanned the barcode with the phone and retrieved back the data from the phone. So that's just, you know, I'm just kind of, you know, I don't want to sit around there all day, but you can really start playing around with the different sensors and using it. I wrote a quick little script that I was using to add stuff to a swap tree account, because I just walk around the house scanning stuff, and it would add it to the account. It was a lot quicker than, you know, writing an Android application to do that. I just basically, all I wanted was the barcode scanner. All right, so since Twitter clients are the new hello world, right, what I got there is it's a QR code. That's actually the code for the next demonstration. So if you have Android scripting environment installed, just go there and select under menu, scan barcode, scan that, and then go in the editor and click paste text, and then it'll paste the script. And then you can just run it along here. But basically, so this is how you would write a Twitter client using the Android scripting environment. Basically, just require Android, require an HTTP, pass in the URI, you know, set the authentication. You know, the status would be the droid. You would want to get the input from a text box, and then you're going to go ahead and just pass that on. And then if the response code is good, you're going to go ahead and say your toot was successfully sent. I can run that. unfortunately, this is one of the downsides. It has to spin up the JVM, or the JRuby instance every time you run a script. But I'm sure it's faster with newer phones. So while that's spinning up, I will turn off the all right. So you'll see it loads up. What's going on? Okay, my tweet was successfully sent. Anyone who's following me on Twitter, I don't know if any of you are out there, you can check to see if it actually sent it or not. But I'm going to hope it did. So this example, it's the same thing with the QR code. This example was what kind of sent me down the path of exploring Android scripting in general, because my wife really wanted an application to, if she was in a bookstore and saw a book she wanted to add it to her to-read shelf on Goodreads. And I was like, oh, that's simple enough. I just bought an Android development book, and so I broke into it. It was the one by the, I think, Pragmatic Programmers. Great book, but so I started reading it, and I started setting out to make the Android application. And I got all the way through it, and started writing about 10 lines of Java, and went cross-eyed and threw the book down, gave up. But to accomplish the same thing in Android scripting environment took exactly, 5 lines of code. So, I mean, you can do something like that. I just, create the Android object, select the scan barcode, get the scan results, and then droid.view basically launches a WebKit browser, and then I'm sending in the ISBN to the API of Goodreads, and away I go. So let's see. All right. Again, I'm going to apologize for the JRuby loading. You work with it long enough, you get used to it. So once it says Android.rb, which you can't see on there, it means that it's already loaded up and it started the load my script. So it'll take the barcode scanner will take over, and it's going to load up. I won't make you wait to watch it load up over Edge, but it's going to load up the Goodreads mobile site, and then from there, you'd be able to add the book to your. It'll load up the book, and then from there, you'll be able to add it to your whatever shelf you want to. So that was pretty awesome, and that's basically what started me playing around with all this stuff. Oh, so there you go. Unix programming environment. Load up. All right. So that's the Android scripting environment. Next up is Ruboto. That's where you can get it, github.com, Hideous, Ruboto IRB. What is it? It's an Android IRB implementation using JRuby 1.4, which is a good thing to note, because Android scripting environment currently only uses JRuby 1.2, I think, release candidate 1. I created a patch for my use. I created a branch, I should say, with it updated to 1.4, but still got some bugs, I think. I have to work out. The project was started by Charles Nutter. I think he goes by Charlie, but I don't know him well enough to call him that. So, what's cool about Ruboto? He uses JRuby 1.4, allows you to play with virtually every Android API. So that actually, there's no facade there. There's nothing to simplify it. You get in there and you get your, you get elbow deep in the Android, if you will, and start mucking around with it. Definitely loads quicker than the Android scripting environment. I've even noticed that on my phone. So, but there's the big problem with it is that it doesn't have the ability to save or edit scripts or launch the scripts via any other manner other than loading up the IRB and entering in what you wanted to do every single time you wanted to do it. So, I mean, it's a toy. It's a fun toy, but it needed a couple more features to actually be usable. So then this came along with JRuby for Android. It's actually hosted on Google Code. I would consider it, I really wish they would have just forked Ruboto and added these features to Ruboto, because really it's the same program plus the ability to save scripts and edit scripts. So it was created by Pascal Chatterjee. And basically it gives you all the same things Ruboto did, but adds the ability to save and edit scripts. Same basic IRB function. So I have it loaded on my phone. I'll show you. It's initializing, just the same thing as the other one did, but didn't have the nifty spinner. And you'll notice that's kind of a problem with when doing Ruby development on Android, is that you got to load up JRuby every single time the application loads. So it adds a lot of overhead to any application, not including the several megabyte jar file that accompanies it. So it's fun for scripting stuff, but you wouldn't really want to make a full application. There's no way you could package an application out of it at this current point and put it in the market without it being very, very large. So I wrote a script earlier, so basically it just says hello world from JRuby. If you go back to the script and look at it, you see it's not like, make toast, blah. You actually have to import the Android widget that you want to use. In this case, it's toast, and then you call it make text. To anyone who's done any work in JRuby, that should look very familiar. You do this all the time when interacting with Java classes. So basically, that would be how you would make that, hello world from JRuby script run. Run it one more time. Hello world from JRuby. All right. Enough with those. Those are kind of interesting, but not as interesting as the last point. Native application development using Duby. So this just came along recently, like yesterday, and I started playing around with it, and it was really fun. So what is Duby? I'll give you a little background. I won't diverge too long on this. Again, another project started by Charles Nutter. It's a static type language with local type inference and Ruby-ish syntax. I wouldn't say exact Ruby syntax, but it's very similar, as in like identical, except for 2 or 3 changes. It's minimally intrusive static typing, so it infers the types from arguments and calls like Scala does. And this is the important part for Android development. The most important part, absolutely no runtime dependencies, which means you don't have to include like doobie.jar in your application in order for it to run. I got that information from that blog post. That just sends you to github.com/hideous/doobie. So I saw a tweet from Phil Hagelberg, which is Technomancy, if you follow him on GitHub. Basically, just got a simple Doobie app compiled package and download to my Nexus One. For the, thanks Hideous for the compiler tweaks to make it possible. I saw that and started, digging a little deeper into what exactly he did and how he made it happen. So after doing some real research, I saw the really cool points about using Doobie to write Android applications is you write, Ruby-like code. It compiles down to Java. It builds cleanly onto Android, and there's no performance overhead because you're generating Java files. So it's as if you wrote the Java and then are building from the Java, basically. So the Doobie compiles into Java. The Java compiles onto the Android phone. So you would write this, which again is, it's very Ruby-ish, and it should look very familiar to people who deal a lot with JRuby. So you would write this. You would run this, which basically, instead of, if you use Java before, you use Java C to compile the Java files. You would run Doobie C, and then with the Java flag to output Java. And then that would, hello.doobie was the previous slide. And then what you would get is that. That would come out the other end. And so I would rather write that than that, personally. But so the demo on that is just to show you that excuse me for my bad eyesight. So where you would regularly have a Java file, keeps wanting to check for errors. So where you would normally have a Java file, you have this Doobie file, which is put there in its place, and then you build it with Ant. So you're going to use Ant debug to build a debug. Sorry. Live code, right? So we'll do RVM. It requires JRuby to build, so switch to JRuby. Now it's compiling. So it successfully builded, and then we go to it's in the bin file, and then you look, you'll see ohi debug.apk. It's off the screen. And then just do ADB install. So it installed it onto an emulator, which is running over here. That. You can see the app down here. Oh, hi. And hello JRuby, thanks for watching. So that's a native application that was coded using Duby and run directly, compiled and run directly on an Android phone. And that's all. Thank you. If anyone has any questions?
What about the security? Are there any security issues or security problems with sandboxing when using Duby or any of the other scripting environments?
I haven't delved directly enough into writing. I haven't attempted to even write a full application aside from just that little Hello World one right there I showed you at the end using Duby. So I don't know when trying to initiate certain activities, or intents that weren't signed off on when installing. I assume if you're trying to build one for market, you're probably going to run into some issues that are going to be tackled because I don't think anyone's even tried to do it yet. It's still extraordinarily new. I mean, in order to get that running, you have to merge in the fixes branch into the Duby main and then build from there. So it's still really, really new, but very, very promising. And as far as the other applications go, any of the if you're using either Ruboto, JRuby for Android, or Android scripting environment, when they install the application, you already agreed to pretty much every intent on the books. If you look down the list, so you pretty much gave full command of your phone over to that application. So that's how it's able to access as much as it does. I'm sorry, what was that? No. The question was, what does installing those void your warranty on your phone? No, they do not. The only thing you would have to do actually is go into your settings, and there's a setting where you can enable installing APK files from sources other than the market. You'll enable that, and that'll let you get on Google Code and then install the necessary software that you need to install. Any other questions? All right, thanks a lot.